Welcome to episode 17 of the Optional Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Josh, with the other host, Tyler, as always. Tyler, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty swell, I'd say. It's a fine time to be here talking about the nerdy things that we do, as always.
There's one or two nerdy things that we do tend to come up with, isn't there? Which kind of leads into what we're talking about today, is we're talking about a list of different things that have been compiled. Today we are talking about gaming compilations that have been released throughout the years. And this should be a fun episode.
This is definitely not a comprehensive list of all that have existed. We're not going to take you down the rabbit hole of like the black box games or the SNES games. We will do more of those. We will get another 50-plus game rapid review, but not so much this time. I think we're just going to talk about why they're pretty rad.
Yeah, and we don't really... We aren't going to talk about so much individual ones, although we are going to bring a couple of them up, but just a general discussion about them and how great or ungreat they can be.
There's been a few ungreat ones.
There's a few ungreat ones.
I got a couple.
That is for sure.
I got a couple on here, but so before we dive into that though, have you been getting up to any new gaming happening for you?
Yeah, a little bit. It's okay. So the Pixel remasters have been shipped, and I'm just patiently waiting on them. And I beat Cult of the Lamb, although the day that I beat it, the DLC dropped. So I've been doing that content, which is like a whole other game on top of it, and it is much more difficult, which is nice. And so I'm swapping between that and the original Half-Life. And this kind of goes back to our other episode where I was saying that Super Mario RPG was like almost a childhood vendetta. The Half-Life series, I've beat hundreds of times. Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2, Half-Life Episode 1, blah, 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 blah. But I have never actually finished, at least I don't remember finishing the 2 expansions for Half-Life 1. So I'm going through Half-Life 1 right now and going to be going through Blue Shift, and then I will be going through Opposing Forces.
Yeah, see, I never dabbled into the expansion packs, what we would used to call DLC back in the day. They'd come in their own boxes and all that. But I have never tried those before. I just tried the original Half-Life. Those were handled by different developers, were they not? Like still
it was Gearbox.
Valve. Oh, Gearbox. Right. Okay.
Yes. That little old twat waffle Randy Pitchford.
They're not as bad as like your EAs or anything like that, though.
No. So at the time, like the expansions are pretty well recognized as far as I can tell, anyways, online. And so I don't know why I've never really given them a shot. So I'm excited to start diving into them, but I figured I'd get the original Half-Life 1 a go, especially since I was recently watching a couple old videos on YouTube's about Half-Life 1 from that Trav guy. So it got me in the mood for Half-Life, and yeah, so here we go. I'm going down that rabbit hole.
He does pretty wonderful work. I've definitely seen those Half-Life videos. I know
it does.
Geez, the last time I dabbled in any Half-Life was probably like 10 years ago, and I played Half-Life 2, and it was not the first time I'd done it, but what a solid game.
It really is. Like, even the one, Half-Life 1, it's older now, sure, and it doesn't look the greatest, sure. It still holds up. It's still fun.
Too bad. You know what's funny? This is actually like wait, was it Half-Life 1 or Half-Life 2 that was on the orange box?
Half-Life 2.
That's got to be like one of the most iconic collection boxes, at least of the 360 era, I want to say.
I believe it was the 360 era, yeah.
I didn't have it.
So, but it was also on PC, so. But I'm going to talk about Half-Life a little later on.
Ooh.
But what have you been up to? What have you gotten into any games? Have you been playing your heart out?
I wish I could say I have, but I really have not. I have not had much time for gaming in the last little while. I've made a little bit of progress in Cult of the Lamb, but not enough to say that I wouldn't even say I'm halfway through that. But in the very small increments of time that I have had available to me, I've actually been playing a lot of the original Super Mario Bros. On my the Game and Watch replica that they came out with a couple years ago.
Okay.
And it's genuinely just been one of those things where, like, I've only had, like, maybe, 20 minutes to just kind of chill out and lay on the couch after a long day or something like that, and I'll boot it up, and it's surprisingly difficult. At least...
It is, and it's also tiny.
Well, but that screen,
the screen is beautiful.
They actually, for a complete novelty, those things are quite the nice little package, and wouldn't you know it, you could almost consider it a collection of sorts, but it only has...
You could. Same with the Zelda one.
The Zelda one, I think they did a much better job, and I have been
Yes.
wanting to play through the original Zelda on that as well. I've actually been booting up Zelda 2 a bit, not really, like, seriously playing it, but just kind of getting a feel for it when I do want to sit down to it. Like, I think as far as I would have got was maybe like the first temple and just kind of making my way through. Just kind of getting an idea of what the game expects of me, right? So
Yeah.
I do intend to do a proper Zelda 2 sit down because I've never gotten through that to the end, nor do I think I have the original Legend of Zelda now that I think about it. Just, when your first Zelda is Link to the Past, it's really hard to...
it's hard to beat. Even now, I'm sorry. I know there's other Zelda games, obviously. A Link to the Past is still my favorite Zelda.
It's just so much more fun to play.
It could be nostalgia, too. I don't care. I love that thing.
And aside from that, the other night I booted up Super Smash Bros. I had a bit of an itch to play some of that. And wow, I am rusty at that game. Like, there was a time where I would have considered myself, I don't know, like an above average casual. Like one of the people that through my group of buddies I would play with, like, I would be considered a challenge. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Wow. On normal, that game just completely... Now, I can't even say that it kicked my ass. I think I kicked my ass quite well, just because there was a lot of just sloppy playing. So, but as for anticipation, I am eagerly awaiting the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters to arrive. I don't know when I'll dive into them, but boy, am I excited to get them. And I guess that's just a pretty good spot to kick this off, isn't it?
I was going to say, the Pixel remasters are a compilation.
Yeah, and the one that we've been asking for too long.
Yes, and the fact that they made it so it's Square Enix store only is still stupid. We got our copies off PlayAsia, but Square, you like money, but you're doing everything to avoid money.
Speaking of money, though, I mean, its raw price tag was, what, $100, wasn't it?
It's something like that.
It was more than your standard full-price Switch release, and it's one of those things where, though pricey, honestly, I can't really blame them. You're still paying, if you are paying less than $20 for each quality game touched up in a way that, because I've played the Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. I couldn't wait. That is my favorite Final Fantasy, and I just had to experience it. And it was really good. And when they initially announced these Pixel Remasters, like, I kind of looked at them like, oh no, like, what are they doing? But it's so hard to explain, but it's one of those things where, like, you can really notice the upgrades that they have made to it, but in the moment, it feels like the original. And there's something kind of magical about that.
And they fixed the font, finally.
Yeah, instead of leaving it to me to fix the font. No, it's...
Right?
But that said, I mean, we haven't gotten them yet, but from what I've seen, it's not really quite like your standard quote-unquote legacy collection. I think it's just 6 games on the cartridge.
I think so.
It doesn't have any kind of, like, Final Fantasy anniversary release with its own menus, and doesn't have all the, like, delightful trappings of some other legacy collections. It's just games on cart, which honestly I can't really be upset about. But at the same time, compared to some of these other ones that I'm sure we're going to get into, it's very much just here you go.
Yeah, which, you know what, I honestly kind of prefer, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't often dive into the extras on the carts, although the one I am going to bring up that I was really impressed with is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga edition.
So I think that's the gold standard for these
It
collections right now, which
it
is
very much
weird
is.
coming out of Konami. Um, the fact
Konami wants to do good, they just don't know how to do good, but they're doing good.
they're slowly trying, and I can
Yes.
appreciate that so much more than what we've had to deal with for the last little while. And yeah, the Cowabunga collection, they give you all that and more. And they didn't do anything so much to change any of the games, but they did actually do a lot of work behind the scenes to actually give them like really good functional online play. And then you've got all sorts of galleries that, if I'm not mistaken, like goes into some really obscure stuff, like some of the comic books and toy lines, like
And they also have like the original game design documents.
yeah.
In spare pieces, of course, but the fact that you can go through that kind of stuff is really, really kind of neat.
It's
Especially for someone like me, where I've dabbled in game development too. So seeing that kind of stuff from like an official company is cool.
Well, and not only that, the game variety that they offered as well. The fact that they gave you all of the like original Turtles games for the NES, Sega, Super Nintendo, but also gave you all of their arcade counterparts as well, just because it wasn't one of those things where they had to choose like which one people would prefer to get, right? They just gave us everything.
Yeah, why choose if you can do all?
And it's a
And
licensed property.
now I'm going to be completely honest, and this is going to make me sound like a bit of a goof, and that's fine. So the main reason I got the collection was for the NES Turtles game.
Ah, I can't.
I'm not a beat 'em up guy or a fighter guy or anything, and it's kind of silly because I have the NES version on my shelf right now. But having on something that's modern, that's always connected to my TV, yeah,
And
it just makes me happy.
the possibility of being able to cheese your way through with some save states, maybe.
No, I want to do the game as it's meant to be done.
I'm at this point where I'm not going to give anyone a hard time for using save states when it comes to difficult challenges in retro games. Just so long as like it's not a crutch. It's kind of it's almost like how okay, so for like example, the Mega Man Zero collection, another thing to bring up here, there were new easy modes implemented that added more checkpoints, right?
Oh, really?
I think that might have been the mode you were using.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I don't remember turning any easy mode on.
Hmm. Anyway, um, yeah, it just offered something that was like, it took away a little bit of that punishing edge because they know they're older games that people like might struggle with, or just not even have the time to like really master. So if
Well, we're in a weird environment now where it's if something's too difficult, it's easy to move on. Where back in the day with the retro games, it's you played what you had, and we've said this before. So, but at the same time, like even if they add in easy modes and all this kind of stuff to the retro games, as long as you're having fun and you don't feel like you're cheating yourself, do what makes you have fun
that's kind
because
of
that's what games are for.
that's kind of my stance on it. You know, if you need to do what you got to do to get to the end of a game and you genuinely want to see it, do it. So
Okay, good example is when I did Final Fantasy IX.
yeah,
I was playing the remastered version, which had a few add-ons. Speed was one of them, and there was also I forget what they called it, but it's you're essentially leveled right up, almost invincible. You can still die and stuff, but you know what? I've mentioned my take on turn-based combat games here before. If I didn't use that, I wouldn't have finished the story, and so be it. I enjoyed the story for what it was. I'm glad I went through it. If I didn't use that mode, I wouldn't have done it.
your take on turn-based mechanics was our introduction to the world.
It that it was.
Yeah, and I believe too the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters all have those. Just crank up all of the stats and stuff to make the game much easier to get through. Just because, and these are supposed to be the as true to the experience remakes, but they know that some people just can't be bothered anymore, and that's fine. I think this is...
It's a respecting time thing for me.
I like to think in the world of difficulty, this has become an entirely different discussion now, but yeah, in the world of difficulty, we're kind of smoothing out where it's like, choose your own difficulty is kind of becoming the norm, and I'm enjoying that.
It's almost like accessibility options.
I would like to chop it up to that, yeah. I want to be able
I
to
think that's a
access
good way.
the end if I suck.
Yeah. And when it comes to the pixel remasters, I plan on doing them legitimately, unless I find myself just feeling like I'm going to drop it, then I might turn on something. But I beat Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I have not. 6 I have. 7 I have. 8 I have. 9 I use the enhanced mode. 10 I haven't. 11's an MMO. 12 I just beat. I did use the speed up one with that one though.
Well,
so everything moved like twice as fast, and oh god, the amount of backtracking in that game, I'm so glad I did. Jesus Christ.
And you still had some opinions on that end game as well.
Yes. But I did the end game. I did the game proper, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have any stat boosts or anything like that. It was just my actual speed moving around in the world. Because it essentially turned the game from running at 1 times to 3 times or something like that. So everything still happened as it would have. It's just 3 times as faster.
Just respecting your time a little bit more.
Yes.
14's
an MMO. 15 didn't have any of that stuff, but it was more action combat. I've done that. 16 isn't out yet.
Oh, but when it is, I've seen a lot of outrage about that game just being nothing but QuickTime events.
Hopefully it's not all QuickTime events.
Well, to bring it back.
So, the reason that we've got, I feel, anyways, we went into this a little bit more than I think Tyler was expecting, is because a lot of these compilations actually have those kind of features built into their games. So, save states, accessibility such as making it easier overall, or speeding things up and all that kind of stuff. A lot of them have rewind as well, if you so choose. So I think it actually was a bit of the discussion that it's not so much off topic, but yeah, you know.
True. And I found that like additional save states, all those kind of things, they're all very welcome in these new collections as well, right?
Yes. I mean, save states, for one, is just a really nice thing. Yeah, people spam them to quote unquote save scum their way through a game. I'm an adult. I got a job. If I have to wait like another 30 minutes before I can get to a save point, or I could just save now, I'm going to save now so I can actually go live my life.
I find I have to reach that threshold first.
Yeah.
I have to find where I've hit the wall, and then I go, I want past it, but I'm not strong enough.
But like save states just so you can get up and go do something if you need to right then.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's just nice. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I much prefer the ability to just, and that's something that I've just been enjoying about how the Switch works in general. It's just sleep mode, actually. Like, sleep mode is one of the greatest inventions to gaming.
Oh, God, yeah.
It saves us from the days of letting the Super Nintendo get hot for being on for 3 days straight. Speaking of the Super Nintendo, the first Legacy collection that kind of comes to mind for me is probably Mario All-Stars.
Yes, and what a collection! It's also I'm hesitant to say first remaster remake.
It's in my mind, it's one of the first remakes, or at least of
it's
quality.
Certainly
anyway.
one. But
I know that.
Yeah.
If you really want to stretch the definition, we could probably look at things like how arcade ports, and then they got the Atari versions, but that's splitting hairs. This is Mario, and
it's just so good. Like I remember having the Super Mario All-Stars, and just that's when we first learned about the lost levels as children. We didn't know that the Mario 2 that we had isn't actually Mario 2.
Well, and then even later just knocking it out of the park completely by slapping in Super Mario World in there.
Yes, because what compilation isn't complete without, like, make the current one in part of it too.
Yep. And
so,
and it also came with its handful of quality of life Like, a lot of these games, obviously, like, they kind of got overhauled for sure, but you could never save in the original. Like I said earlier, I've been playing the original Super Mario Bros., and I did not remember the fact that once you run out of lives, you are back to the first level.
Yes, you are.
Wow! Like, this game is a little bit, it's got a bit more bite than I remembered. And yeah, and especially something like Mario 3, which is a great game, but in the later chapters, it's surprisingly difficult. So the save states
It gets difficult, and it is much longer than the original Mario.
Oh, is it ever? So.
And no saving in that either.
Nope, back to start.
So save states and all that kind of stuff with the All-Stars edition. Beautiful.
Now, I've never played it, but there was another, like, similar package for the Super Nintendo, but unlike Mario All-Stars doing everything right, I believe this one just did everything wrong.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What one's this?
That's the Ninja Gaiden trilogy.
Oh.
Yeah. So I didn't actually know about this for a good while, but they released all three with upgraded Super Nintendo graphics all together on the Super Nintendo. And apparently it is significantly worse to play than any of the originals.
That's kind of upsetting, actually.
It's really upsetting just because that's the kind of thing, like if I discovered that there was, upgraded SNES versions for what are considered really good Nintendo games, I would be all about that.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's another one that I have played, not on the Super Nintendo, but on the Sega, that's a similar fumble. And have you tried the Wily Wars before?
I have not. I know it's on the Sega Genesis Mini.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, it's on the Sega
the official one.
And if I'm not mistaken, they might have put it on the Sega for the Switch Online. I'm not certain about that. But
I think you're right.
So it's a really cool game in concept. The fact that it's almost like the Mario All-Stars remakes of the first three Mario games with the first three Mega Man games. So you got the updated graphics and physics that are all more in line with each other and all that. But they just don't feel good to play. Like, at all.
On the actual Sega, I could imagine that being slightly annoying just because I'd have a hard time, and maybe this is the Nintendo fan in me. I have a hard time imagining doing platforming in a Mega Man game using that circle of a D-pad that the Genesis had.
Not only the circle of a D-pad, but like 3 horizontally lined up buttons, right?
Yeah.
So, it just doesn't feel good. And I think I've tried it with my Super Nintendo controller on the Switch before, and it still just doesn't feel great. So
I should launch it up and get my take on it.
Here's the thing, though. They did go the extra mile with this because, of course, it's not just called like the Mega Man Collection. It's the Wily Wars, right? So it has these original 3 games, but then when you beat them, there's additional brand new content. And the cool thing is you go through Wily Tower and you can pick and choose your powers from all 3 of the Mega Man games.
Which is really neat.
That's awesome extra content, but it hurts to get to. And yeah, so those are just like, some pretty early examples that I can think of like quote unquote legacy collections of franchises anyway. So
well, just going on Mega Man has had so many compilations.
And
it's not even funny.
They have their ups and downs. They've all have their ups and downs.
The latest ones, we're looking at the Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2.
Okay.
We're looking at the Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The Mega Man Zero, is it Zero and ZX?
Zero ZX Collection, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And now we have the Mega Man Battle Network Collection.
There's
1 and 2.
There's a clear evolution with these collections. And before even those, however, I'm going to take it all the way back to the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. And there was, I think it was just called Mega Man Collection or Mega Man Anniversary Collection. And I think it had Mega Man 1 to 8 on it. Because I think 8 would have been the latest one at the time. And it also came with if I'm not mistaken, the Mega Man collection came with the 2 Mega Man arcade games, like the Power Fighters or something like that, like super obscure
Okay.
releases, and that was a really cool bonus to get in those collections. I have it on GameCube, and Mega Man is weird to play on a GameCube controller.
Yes,
That
I feel like it's going to be one of those series that you want a D-pad for, and the GameCube D-pad was meant for
it was there for show.
ants.
Yeah, like most of the D-pads, whenever I like push them on a GameCube controller, they make a loud click from not being used for ages. So,
but here's the question: did the Anniversary Collection on GameCube have the most important Mega Man game ever made?
which one would that be?
Mega Man Soccer.
Oh, you know what? I don't think any of them have featured Mega Man Soccer.
That's never been re-released, has it?
It has not. No. The one thing I'll wait until I get to the tail end, but it would be cool if they did like the Scraps collection, where you get Mega Man and Bass, you got Mega Man Soccer. They would even like translate. I don't know if you even know about this one, but there was like I can't remember the full name because it never got here, but it's like called Rock Board or something like that, and it's basically Mega Man Monopoly for the NES.
Oh, jeez.
This is a thing that exists, and
I want it.
and then if they threw in like let's do the random Game Boy games, because there was like 5 of those. There was a couple X Game Boy games, and then just to round out the package, the Mega Man Legends games. We'll throw them in there too.
Yeah,
because
why not?
You know what was really a sad omission from the latest one, the Battle Network?
The Battle Network?
And I haven't gotten it yet, but from what I've seen, like they put a lot of love into this collection.
Yes.
And it was split up into 2, but not for retail, which thank God.
It's the 2 games in one cart.
Wait, is it?
Yes.
Oh, that's disappointing. It's better, but it's still disappointing that I thought they... Anyway, so
for a bit of context on that, the Mega Man Legacy Collection and the X Legacy Collection for Switch, you had half the collection on the cartridge, and then the other half of the collection in the physical box was a digital download code.
And it's atrocious. And Capcom was bad for this for a while, because that was the same with...
It's the reason I don't have the Resident Evil collection
just
on
gonna say that.
Switch.
Yeah, it was because
it's Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0. 0 is notoriously like worse than 1, but 0 is on the cartridge, 1 is a download. Don't care. As a physical collector, I don't care.
It was the same story for the 4, 5, and 6 collection, and I don't know which one is on the cart. Admittedly, if it was 4, that would almost make it worth getting.
Yeah.
It would bother me that it would be on my shelf and it's just like, it says it's 3 games, but it's 1. But it would still, at least you'd be getting the best of the 3, allegedly. I can't speak to that. I've not played them, but it's kind of hard to say 4 isn't the best of the 3.
Yeah, from a fan standpoint anyways, I've played most of 5, but never actually completed it. And I haven't played 6. 6 is notoriously bad. 5 is eh.
Okay. But still a disappointing collection all the same.
Yes.
Now, with the Mega Man ones, at least the modern ones that we've gotten, the Legacy collections, I can at least sort of forgive the first one, because the first Mega Man Legacy collection came out, I don't know, like 2-3 years before Legacy Collection 2. Like, they were very separate releases, and if you boot them up, they're very different from each other as well. They put a lot more work into the first one, and they definitely just kind of the second one out. Now, and it's one of those things where it was dumb for them to release them how they did, broken up, but you can excuse it. Now, the X collection, there is no excuse for that one.
No.
Because I guess they just decided we split up the last one, we'll split up this one. But they are literally the exact same at their core. You boot them up, they have the same extras with all of the same images and art concepts and all that kind of stuff. And, it infuriates me. And the worst part is they did something really cool with that collection as well. Is they added, I think they were called the X Challenges or something, and you could take on like different gauntlets of 2 bosses at once. Like, it was a whole new mode, but why did they have to break it up like that? It made no sense.
It was just the way Capcom seems to do their collections. It's very, very strange.
And then it got a little bit better with the Zero and ZX collection, because that one wasn't broken up into 2. And I mean, it would be.
And Battle Network is kind of 2. It's 1 cart though, so that as long as they're both on the cart, I'm okay with it.
Well, and going back to the original, like the Mega Man and X and Resident Evil, even that was before developers knew how to, or I think the Switch wasn't capable of games with more than 1 game on the cartridge.
Correct.
And I believe, like, since subsequent updates, that's been a thing that's been available. Because I think the first game that I ever popped in my Switch that had, like, multiple game files show up on the menu was Risk of Rain 2, came with the original Risk of Rain. So not technically a legacy collection, but a nice little bonus.
I think the first one for me was La Mulana.
Ah, that one is a legitimate collection. And, okay, so would you consider a combo pack, like, in this discussion as well? I mean, if they only have so much to offer.
I mean, kind of, yeah. I don't see why not, because it is technically a compilation.
Because there's La Mulana, and then there's, like, the Prinny collection, which is just the 2 games that were for PSP, I believe. And
yep.
It's much cooler to be able to get them both than just splitting them up, or even worse, making them digital only. So
yeah, don't do what Mega Man did.
Now, interesting kind of combo packs going back for the Game Boy Advance, the Final Fantasy Dawn of Souls, which was the re-release of 1 and 2 both together.
Yes.
And this was kind of a time where, like, re-releases of things, they happened, but they didn't happen very often.
Not so much in North America.
And
one that was in Japan only was Mother 1 and 2.
Oh, that's
Mother 1
right.
plus 2.
Yeah. Now, did they touch up Mother 1 at all, or was it just like the original game working on Game Boy Advance?
I think it was the original game just working on Game Boy Advance.
Okay, because I wouldn't imagine they would have done much
I could be wrong.
I feel
but
like
I think it was just the standard.
If they had updated Earthbound in any way, shape, or form, because Earthbound is a very underground and kind of emulation out of necessity franchise at this point, that I feel like if there was like an upgraded port for the Game Boy Advance, it would have gotten a little bit more light these days.
I would assume so, yeah.
Probably just a raw port, but still, they gave them to them.
Yep, but that was in Japan only.
Yeah.
And that was pre-marketing for Mother 3 in Japan only.
That's a good marketing strategy, actually. I guess
Come on,
they kind
Nintendo,
of did
stop
that
being
with,
cowards. Bring it to us.
They kind of did that with Bayonetta.
Yeah.
When 3 was coming out, they were like, well, pump out 1 and 2 again.
Yep.
Because you might be a little confused by this lore. Now, what do you think
What is this, hair?
What do you think of, like, current compilations? Here's a good question. Do you feel ripped off when, and the example I'm going to use, Sega has a lot of collections under their belt. Oh
yes,
my.
they do.
They are the most generous company when it comes to giving you their games. But let's say, hypothetically, if you bought, like, the Sonic Mania, for example, if you bought that, and then, like, 2 months later, even if these aren't games that you are particularly interested in, as yourself, this is a purely hypothetical collection, but they come out with it again, and then 2 other pretty good games. Do you gonna feel burned?
I know no. Because I purchased what I wanted.
Okay.
Right. Now, with that said, I noticed at my local GameStop that they had pre-orders for Sonic Origins. Yeah. Sonic Origins Plus.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, and
Knuckles.
4, maybe. Knuckles.
And also Amy, I think, is a playable character now. It's the Plus version,
maybe.
Right? So it's going to be like, with the DLC and stuff, kind of like what they did with Sonic Mania.
Yeah. So I'm quite excited for that. That's I played the hell out of Sonic 2 and 3. so
Did play a lot.
I can enjoy them, and I'm excited for them.
I like how
And
Sonic has shown
3,
up. Oh, I don't even have any of these on my list, but I was just gonna say Sonic's had some killer collections in his time.
throughout the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the ones on Switch you see now is like Sonic Mania plus Sonic Forces.
Yeah.
And that kind of compilation bothers me.
I would not want to see that on my shelf, no.
No, it's I want an individual per case. And granted, like some of these, like the Cowabunga collection, that's like what, 13 games?
Yep.
That's fine on one cartridge because it's known as a compilation.
Yeah.
Where the Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces cartridge, they aren't a compilation.
That's just a bargain.
It's just, yeah, it's that they print it like it's shovelware, and it's not shovelware.
It's weird when you see that. It makes you think they're like cheap.
It's the kind of game that Walmart throws on the red and yellow sticker.
Oh, and that's when you just like, if they don't want it, I don't want it.
Yeah. So.
Now, oddly enough, the thing that made me bring up that hypothetical wasn't actually like a Sonic Switch combo cart. It was the one that I had in my mind was actually the Castlevania double pack for the Game Boy Advance.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so that one had Aria of Sorrow and I think Harmony of Dissonance. And like Aria of Sorrow is the significantly better game, but...
Was it Aria of Sorrow or was it Circle of the Moon?
No, Circle of the Moon wasn't in the combo pack, to my knowledge. But the one that I have, it's Harmony of Dissonance. And
okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, if you had bought one of those, and it's like you could buy it again with another game.
Yeah, back in the day, or I guess the general audience probably would rather would feel burned by that and would want the dual.
It's just bad.
But for now, as a physical collector, I'd want them separately.
It looks a lot nicer,
they would mean more.
It? Yeah.
It does.
I have the combo pack, and it's like, I like it. It's a great part of my collection, but it also bugs me.
It feels disingenuous.
It's strange like that, yes. Now, this is just a random one on the note of Sega, which, again, so many collections. And I actually really like the Sega collections because they just give you the most random crap whenever they do. They're like, here's 50 Genesis games. You've probably heard of 12 of them.
Yes, now try them all out.
Yeah.
Just because you might find something that you didn't know you would like.
Which I have. The one thing that bothers me with a lot of the Sega collections is they give you the entire series of a lot of things. So, like, you get a lot of variety, but then you also lose a lot of variety to Golden Axe 1 through 3. They don't give you the best one. They just give you everything. Make up your mind on it.
You know what you do lose a bit of variety with?
That.
One of your favorites, I know. Columns.
Jesus Christ. So, one of the most interesting things I own, and I don't own a lot of Sega Genesis cartridges, but I am such a big fan of the Sega Genesis 6-pack, spelt specifically PAK, because it's the 90s and it's rad, and it's like the original Sega collection of games that are on the current console that you are playing right now, and it was like, so Sonic 1, maybe? Which admittedly would be a bit of a blemish on the collection, but whatever, it's still a Sonic game, it's quality. And then I think a Shinobi game, my personal favorite, like Super Hang-On, something else, and then fucking Columns! Just shows up everywhere. It's like, well, how about Columns 2? And it's like, I didn't want it the first time, I don't want it now. Fuck, I hate Columns.
I know you love it so much.
Oh, jeez. But all the same, the Sega collections are always a lot of fun. They remind me of, like, as we discussed not too long ago, getting one of those old random shareware discs.
Yep.
It is just a mess of stuff.
And you know what? Like, shareware is a weird situation, because for the most part, it was almost like a full game, but it wasn't a full game. So, like, back in the day, especially with, like, DOS, which we just talked about not that long ago, a lot of them were broken into chapters, and you usually got the first chapter for free. But oftentimes, you were pretty satisfied with that first chapter.
I admittedly, just a lot of the times the first chapter felt like enough of a game because the chapters concluded like full games.
Yeah.
You're like, hey,
Hell,
turns out you're
as a
not
kid,
done.
you didn't even know.
You're like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm done. I beat the last
I got
boss.
credits.
So what would you say are some other blunders in the world of collections?
I got a good one.
Is it the one
that's it's a weird one.
Okay.
I'll say that. But it was the first ever game I bought with my own money. And that was a Half-Life Collector's Edition. And what it was is Half-Life 1, Ricochet, Team Fortress, Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat. I feel like I'm missing one. Well, that was 5. That was 5. Yeah, so it had those 5, and you open it up, it's this big bulky box, and it has a disc for each one and a CD key. And this is around the time that Steam was becoming their main thing. So I don't know if this was an oopsie on their end, but you entered the Half-Life key onto your account, and it unlocked the entire collection.
Oh.
I could give a key off one of the other CDs, so say the Day of Defeat key, to a buddy, and it would unlock the entire collection for them.
Oh,
it was weird. I don't know if it was a big whoopsie on their end,
but kind of a nice
that
scheme.
thing I still have the box, the original discs, and all the paperwork, if you will, all the pamphlets and everything that was inside the box. It is unfortunately packed away, but yeah, it's technically a compilation. Just it was digital, but still had the discs.
The funny thing is, the thought of those games back then altogether would probably be somewhere of like $70 to $120, and now on a good week on Steam, you can probably get all of them for 6 cents.
Yep. Yep. Pretty accurate.
That does sound like a solid collection, though.
It's a very solid collection. And kind of going back to Final Fantasy, you know what is a weird one that they kind of did?
That
is 7 and 8, the multi-pack.
That is a really weird compilation.
Because
yeah.
if you think, why did they pair them up? And you could argue because they were PlayStation 1. Yeah, so was 9. Why wasn't 9 in there?
I don't think because you're referring to the Switch port, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the Switch version of Final Fantasy IX didn't exist yet.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that's because you can get Final Fantasy IX now physically, but just by itself. And it's weird because it costs just as much as to buy 7 and 8. Well, it did. I wouldn't know what they're going for now, if they're still available or not.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
But all the same, it is a very weird omission because it's like, it would be nice to get all of the PlayStation hits together. And hey, throw us a bone. Give us tactics in there too.
Why not?
That would be nice.
I think a lot of Tactics fans, just from our conversation that we had with Krev, they want Tactics. Now, continuing on Final Fantasy, because that's just how we're doing, there was a Final Fantasy anthology on the PS1.
And Chronicles.
Yes, and Chronicles.
Yep.
Now, these are... One of them had a certain game that we like to bring up on the show. But it is probably one of the worst ways to play said game. Do you remember which was on Anthology or Chronicles?
Okay, so I believe...
Or Chrono Trigger.
I believe Final Fantasy Anthologies is the releases of 4 and 5, which would have been the first time 5 ever came stateside. And Chronicles is 6 and Chrono Trigger. And in theory, that should be one of the most mind-blowing PlayStation 1 discs. And in practice, it's one of the worst.
Because of those load times.
Oh, I mean,
even the anthology is pretty bad just because of the load times. Like, these are Super Nintendo games, or Super Famicom, I guess.
I think that's kind of where... Do you remember how, we're going way back, how we had discussed that, these long attack animations in, like, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, and all that stuff, how they drag on?
Yeah.
It's almost like they were there to cover up the fact that they had to load everything.
It's possible.
Yeah, and if you get with the quick, snappy combat of a Super Nintendo game, and you got to load out of that battle now, it's just everything's gonna freeze, and you're just gonna hear that click of your PS1 trying so hard to run an older game than it.
Yes.
So,
oh dear.
Awesome collections in theory and in practice, just not good. It does go to show though that Final Fantasy has always felt really good about still keeping its older stuff relevant.
This is true, and it's something some companies do not care about, like their older stuff.
I think that's why these collections are like so special, right? Is the fact that like the Switch is probably my favorite console of all time, only because I can pretty much enjoy everything I loved for the Super Nintendo on it.
Right?
And
I mean, the NES Online and the SNES Online, the N64 now, the Sega Genesis, the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. It's all really, really neat stuff, and it's all that retro stuff that maybe we are borderline boomers for just loving the shit out of.
For dust. This is a fact.
Dust.
Dust. But, and then just the constant re-releases, like the collection of Mana, which, if I've not mentioned before, that I bought twice, because I didn't think we were going to get it, because it's like, oh, it has Trials of Mana. We never got that. And then, well, it wasn't called Trials of Mana at the time. But then we got it, and I'm like, now I own it twice, and I don't care because they're that good.
Yes. And that was actually one I completely forgot about. Yeah, the collection of Mana.
And for those of you...
Not Legend of Mana.
...who have had... it would have been nice if that was part of it, but I understand. It wasn't an option at the time.
You called it Legend of Mana.
Did I?
It threw me off, yeah.
Oh, whoops. But
whoopsie doodle.
All the same.
But collection of Mana, yeah.
It's a cheap game, too. Like, I've seen it easily under $30 at a lot of places readily available, which is my way of saying people go buy it.
And the fact that they localized Seiken Densetsu 3 or Trials of Mana,
that's something special.
That's something after all those years.
And unnecessary at all that. And
I'm okay with that because that was my first experience with it and I fell in love with it.
Oh, it's such a fantastic game. And then you've got some indie devs throwing their hat in the ring. Now these are a little bit more exclusive digitally and whatever, but like for me, it's one that comes to mind is like the Hotline Miami collection.
Yep.
That's, games that they know deserve to be experienced together, so they pair them together.
Yes.
This, I find, is a really good component.
It is very welcomed.
Yeah. If a good collection will keep everything in nice and tightly and knit and functioning, which is kind of my segue to one that I really wanted and then I did not buy because of how bad it came out. Is that ringing any bells?
So I got one of those too.
Is it the GTA collection?
Nope, but that was apparently really bad.
Oh, I was really excited for that one because like I said, GTA 5, I tried, it just didn't do much for me. 4 is probably my favorite, and if that ever came to Switch, oh, that would be so cool. But either way, like the PlayStation 2 era ones were coming, and then on the Switch, that's really cool. And then it just sucked on everything.
Yeah, they did not do a good job on that.
And you know what the biggest crime of all is? Is they didn't even bother to include GTA 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
I mean, why? It's weird that they didn't do that. They just called it the trilogy, and we're done with it.
It's the trilogy of 3. Like, 3 was already part of a trilogy, and then it just became one. And, I don't know. Yeah. It only bothers me just for the fact that, like, one thing I love about a lot of these collections is when they shine light on, like, their wackier times. Like, again, the Cowabunga collection. You said you only bought it for the one game, which is, of course, the one game that I feel like a lot of people who did buy it are probably like, it's neat that it's here, but I'm not going to play it.
Yeah.
Like, I can safely say that I mostly bought it because I have so much nostalgia for Turtles in Time. The fact that it has the arcade version is just really cool. And I also really wanted to play the fighting games, even though I'm trash at them.
Whereas I just don't care about fighting games.
Oh,
just not my style.
You know,
but the NES game is one I do want to get good at.
You know what one you should also try on that collection though?
Is it the number 3 for Game Boy?
Yeah, Radical Rescue, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's kind of Metroidvania where each turtle has a different move that you need to get to different areas, is it not?
Yeah, and you got to find them all so you can unlock them.
Right.
Yeah, no, for a Game Boy game, pretty well put together, and the name just gave me mental flashbacks of Radical Rex. Oh.
So, you know another compilation that was actually done pretty piss poorly, and I'm only just recently become, within the past couple of years, a fan of the series, is the Silent Hill collection.
I was just gonna say, you only recently became a fan of Mario?
No. The Silent Hill collection. And
the HD collection?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yes.
Hey, what did that have on it?
I don't even know, because as soon as I found out all the issues that it had, I just kind of stopped paying attention. But the important one, number 2, Silent Hill 2. I remember watching video gameplay of that from the HD collection, and they were using Comic Sans instead of their specialized creepy fonts on the signs in the town.
Oh my god, that's good.
Oh my god, it is. Oh.
We say some pretty nerdy things, so I apologize for people who don't understand like the terminology of like Comic Sans. It's just like a very basic like Microsoft Word font, but again, like just
It is this joke font of the internet.
Oh, that's bad. That's really.
Welcome to Silent Hill's Farm Ranch.
Yeah, Silent Hill brought
Ranch.
to you by MS Paint.
Oh my god, just.
Yeah, that was.
So I know the PC version had a lot of like bad glitches that Konami just did not fix.
Is that like Xbox 360 or is that like PS4 generation?
Xbox 360, I think. And for some reason, I just want to say it had 2 and 3. I don't think it had 1. I nobody quote me on that, because again, just kind of dropped it because it's like, okay, that's a horrible way to do it. If you want to play Silent Hill Enhanced, look up the Enhanced Edition.
It is a real shame when companies are trying. It feels bad when these collections come out feeling less like a celebration of their series and more like gap filler releases, right?
Well, you can tell the companies who actually take pride in their work versus the ones who are just trying to make money. And it's weird to say that, considering I just bashed a Konami product, but yet they released the gold standard nowadays for a compilation, which was the Turtles compilation, Cowabunga collection.
I think they stumbled a little bit along the way to get there. Now, I haven't...
Oh, they most certainly did.
I haven't spent a lot of time with the Castlevania collection, but from what I've seen, now it's put together nicely, and it plays fantastic.
It is very nice.
But I don't think it has a lot going on with it other than just game, right? I don't think there was much in the ways of, like, quality of life updates or extra content or anything like that.
No extra content. It was the base, because I want to say I beat everything, all the Castlevanias on there now.
Did you beat King Dracula? You gotta beat King
Yes.
Dracula. Did you actually?
Yes, I did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't taken the time with it. So I did
Castlevania 1, 2, Simon's Quest, 3, Castlevania 4, which was on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Kid Dracula. What else was on there?
Bloodlines,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I did beat them all.
That is a really good collection too. Like, I think that's a good example of
solid.
A good grouping in a collection, right?
So they
did make some omissions.
Did they?
Well, okay, when I say omissions, it's more like the fact that it didn't have Dracula X on there, and they then grouped that up with Symphony of the Night in its own weird little collection. No,
Dracula X was in the Advanced Collection.
Was Symphony of the Night just by itself and just not on Switch?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's almost better.
Give us Symphony of the Night, Konami. Stop being a little bitch.
Between the two, I think I'd rather the Advanced Collection.
I'd rather the Advanced Collection, but I still want Symphony of the Night. I have yet to play it. I'm very, very stubborn on this standpoint. Give it to me.
I'm not going to tell you not to ask more of Konami. That's for sure. And did you get your Contra collection?
Yes, I did.
Is it just kind of a lot like the Castlevania one as how it's put together?
I'm going to assume I have not launched it yet.
Okay, that's.
I've been too busy with other things. So one thing the Castlevania collection had was the ability to remove slowdown.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, damn, that's...
I'm pretty sure. I could be thinking of something else now. No, I'm second guessing myself now.
That's an interesting
I'm pretty sure it was in that.
Just because...
It wasn't Turtles, I know that. But I'm pretty sure it started with the Castlevania collection.
Interesting.
But I do want a physical for the Advanced Collection. So Konami, get on it.
Would you say you have any obscure collections?
Oh God. I mean, there's the La Mulana.
That was
collection.
particularly obscure, indie-ish.
Yeah. I have Always collection. I've dove into those games just slightly, not long enough to end up on a dropped games episode.
Ooh. You do have an obscure collection, and if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of like one of the high points of your overall collection.
Oh God.
The Ark the Lad.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is true. So the Ark the Lad collection. It's sitting right in front of me. I was looking up here. That's where I got Final Fantasy Anthology from. How did I not get the Ark the Lad collection?
Because it's a weird time in collections where collections were just literal bundles of the singular games.
Yeah, so the Ark the Lad collection that I have, it's actually really nice. It comes with a few weird little gimmicky things. It comes with a really nice hard art book, instruction manual for each game.
Yeah.
Bundled into like one giant book. It comes with joystick covers. These little condoms for your joystick.
Weird.
And then it comes with 3 games. So
I like it when these collections come with a little thing. I like it when they're very much products for the fans too, right?
Yes.
Now,
And this collection was the only one that came over to America, to North America. It was released Japan only, individually, and then they came over here in this collection.
that's weird.
Yeah.
That's very weird.
But still cool. I like it.
I mean, it gets you a whole clean sweep of the entire... Is that all of the PlayStation games in one?
I believe so, yes.
Not a bad little package.
No, it's nice.
Here's a... So, I alluded to kind of saying how Mario had bad collections. And you'd think I
Yes.
mean the 3D All-Stars. And to an extent, I kind of do. That was a really lackluster collection. But it's not the first time they've done it.
Which one are you referring to?
So, for the 20th anniversary, maybe 25th, I don't know specifically which.
Yes.
Yeah, for the Wii, the Super All-Stars release for Wii, which, not gonna lie, kinda cool, but the fact that it is literally just Super Mario All-Stars for Super Nintendo on a disc... okay, it's really hard for me to be mad at it because of how good Super Mario All-Stars is.
Yes.
But also, what the hell? It didn't even have Super Mario World.
Oh, God.
Yeah, if just All-Stars. Now, I do think that it came with like some pretty interesting goodies in the box, right? Maybe like an art book or a CD or something. But
yeah, it was the red box, right?
It was, but the problem with that is, now I don't know what it would have cost initially because it was this big fancy box anniversary edition, and then they just came out with it in their Nintendo Selects line, and it was just a regular $20 game without all the neat stuff. Which, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you could buy Mario All-Stars on the Virtual Console at the time, but if you could, it would be like $5 or $20.
Yeah.
Or scalper prices.
But it's a celebration of Mario. Their IP has lasted so long. Give them money for it.
But then, at the same time, the same company, kind of, puts out the Kirby Dream Collection for the Wii. And
yes.
This has... what did it have on it? Mario Dreamland 1, 2, and 3. It had 64. It had quite a few games. Didn't have Superstar, though.
which is upsetting.
It is quite the thing to leave out, but I think it had the Kirby's Adventure as well. It was a good collection and had all sorts of extras, came with an art book, came with a CD. Like, that is how you do a proper collection.
It's almost like, okay, this is Mario, we don't have to hype it up that much. People are going to buy it. Where Kirby is like, okay, we don't have a lot of faith in Kirby, so here's some extra stuff to coerce you into getting it.
If I remember, it wasn't expensive, so yeah, like, it was very much like they had to convince you to buy it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what that would be very scummy if that's what they were thinking, but that's probably what they were thinking.
I don't know. They have a weird relationship with Kirby.
They do.
That is the sad truth.
At least one Kirby game a year.
I'm okay with that. They're usually pretty solid.
Yeah, if it's anything like the Forgotten Land, then I'm down.
I would think, just circling back to my mention for the Arc the Lad collection there, I think my most obscure collection that I can think of, and it's also broken up into various parts, is my various copies of the Darius collection. Which, I don't know how I feel about this one being broken up. It's kind of almost a good... There's so many games. And one of the collections is all of the arcade releases. And then one of the collections is all of the console releases. And then...
Okay.
Then the other one's some random offshoot that was like PSP and Xbox and maybe some more arcade. I don't know. And I like that they're broken up because of like the distinctions, because they do play very differently.
They had a good distinction to split them up by.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, this is the first Mega Man's, this is the second Mega Man's.
Yeah, and they all have their reasons for being quality and less so, right? It's not like the Mega Man X collection where you get 1 to 4, which are two of the greatest platformers of all time, and then 2 of the goodest platformers of all time. And objectively, I should say, I still love these games. And then in the X2 collection, you have 5, which is good. And then you have 6, which is a Mega Man game. And then you have 7, which, oh no, we're in 3D and it's bad. And then you have 8, which is, we're in 3D, but we play 2D. And it's not as bad as the last one. And that's the only compliment it's getting.
That's
so
a compliment.
To have 2 such drastically different products from each other. I don't know. I know when this first one came out, it was like they kind of doomed the second one not to sell.
Yeah.
So I like it when if you are going to break up your collections, at least give them merit.
Yeah.
Thank God they're good now.
If you release half of it as a digital download, no, go away.
No, that was just a sloppy way to handle it.
Yeah, you know some really good collections that came out, and I'm glad that I have a physical copy of. But they did them really piss poorly, in a sense of cartridge, like the Spyro Reignited trilogy and the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, where the first game, it all worked as one game. There wasn't digital download codes or anything. But the first game was actually on the cartridge, and the others downloaded as an update.
Oh.
So you couldn't actually play any of them without downloading the rest of it.
That's actually the same reason why I never pulled the trigger on the BioShock collection. Which is so unfortunate, because I would love to have that series all together as one.
That would have been great.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's not even like they gave you one and then you had to download the rest. I think they gave you like parts of all of them, and you just had to download the rest of the game to even function.
That might have been how Spyro was, actually.
And then they took it a step further, and now when you buy it in a store, there's not even a cartridge in the box.
Oh God. No, that is the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah. Oh.
Here's a physical box for a piece of paper with a code on it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I just buy it from the eShop?
Then I'm just not gonna remember I even own it, and I'll never play it. Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Yep.
Well, before I ask my question, I should ask: is there any more ramblings you have about the goods or bads or the merits of collections as a whole? I think they're wonderful. Even
I think they're wonderful. I really enjoy the ones I have, even though I don't touch them a whole lot.
see,
But I'm glad I do, because there is the ever going itch that, oh, I want to do this now, I want to do this now, I want to do this now, and that's what the compilations are always on. So take Mega Man for example. I've been slowly going through those. Just every once in a while, I'll pop in a Mega Man game and continue on. So I beat 7 now. So the next one is going to be 8, and that should be a fun experience.
it's kind of a hoarding mentality, but a lot of these collections too, they're not even the thing that I play when I get them. I just like that I have them for if I want to play them.
Yes.
Like, for example, when
Now,
I picked up the Capcom Fighting Collection, like, I wasn't, like, oh, super dying to get into some fighting games, but I know from time to time I want to.
yep.
Yeah.
So here's a kind of not collection, but yet somehow kind of is. Okay, so I guess it's not really.
Is it the Action 52? Is that's where you're going with this?
No.
Oh, good.
No, it gives me an excuse to bring up a game that I actually really enjoy.
Ooh.
But it's not really a collection, and that is Shovel Knight, the Treasure Trove.
Okay. So I think they actually consider those separate games. So
They
that
do.
counts. And
But it is one game.
it is one game. It's 4 games, and it's almost the Kirby Superstar of Shovel Knight.
Kinda.
It is the only. Oh. I want to say that one is less like a compilation and more of like a complete package.
Yes.
But what a package, all the same. Oh.
So the story behind Shovel Knight is actually really neat, because they planned on doing like an expansion or two. I don't remember quite how the story goes, but they came out with Shovel Knight. It was complete. Kickstarter was done. And it was really good. And then they're like, we want to do more with this. So they came out with they planned 3 other expansions. And they all are kind of similar, but yet very different. You get the same bosses in different scenarios and all that kind of stuff when you're playing different characters. They all kind of have their own story to elaborate on the main Shovel Knight story.
Okay.
So it's very much a expansion, but yet somehow a collection. And then they just said, okay, well, you know what? We had a lot of fun with this. Everyone can have it for free if you already have Shovel Knight. At least on PC.
Yep, I have my original free updates because I picked that game up on PC. I have bought Shovel Knight 3 times, actually.
I think I've only got it twice.
Yeah, I bought it on the PC, and then I bought it physically for Switch. And then, just because I wanted to have it, I bought it on 3DS as well. I have a physical copy for that.
Oh, nice.
Just because I think it's neat.
It is good.
But it's kind of a weird one where that's, I would say, less of a collection and more of a complete package. But at the same time, it's also a collection. It's, what an anomaly.
I told you, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Oh, it would be one of the best in my mind. But
it is really good.
My question to you is, if you could have any collection of either some kind of franchise or some kind of, grouping theme. You can't just say, like, the Super Nintendo every game cartridge. What kind of collection would you want to see on the market?
So, I'm going to kind of split this into 2.
Okay.
But they both coincide with the same franchise.
All right.
And what I would honestly want is a 3D Zelda collection and a 2D Zelda collection. So 2D Zelda would be like your Zelda 1, 2, Link to the Past, the Oracle games, Link's Awakening, Minish Cap. I'm sure there's some I'm forgetting about, but screw the DS. The 3D version being Ocarina of Time. You got Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Those are the main ones I'd want.
You're just gonna completely omit Skyward Sword from that collection.
Oh yeah, that's a game, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised.
So Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Zelda's never actually gotten any collections. And it would be really cool too if they spiced it up with something like, you know, maybe 4 swords with functional online, or
Oh, that would be really
maybe
cool.
if they actually, kind of like how they completed Star Fox 2, if they went back and they gave like proper releases to like the broadcast Satellaview Zelda versions.
Oh, the BS
The
Zelda,
BS Zelda, yes. Yeah, it would be really
which
cool
does
if
not stand for bullshit.
surprisingly. Uh yeah, no, I think Zelda collections would be really nice. I'm shooting surprisingly more obscure in my thought process.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, it probably shouldn't. But I wouldn't say it's still a pretty well-known franchise, but I'm going to put the ball in the court of Capcom, because if when they try, they can land a pretty good collection. Now, do you have any thoughts on what my collection might be? And no, it's not the Mega Man Scraps collection. I do want that though.
I'm trying to think. I doubt it would be like Street Fighter.
No, that would be. They've done that. Actually,
They've done that.
They've done a
I was
few
gonna
of
say.
those. There's like one that's like 12
The Street
versions
Fighter
of Street
2
Fighter
collection.
2. Yeah, yeah. No, it's not that.
I can't think. Would it be something with Monster Hunter?
No, that's
That would be a
what,
giant
I was
collection.
gonna say, what is that? Like the year-long Endeavor collection?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
jeez. I would like to see, and I feel like this is one that is within the realm of possibility, a Ghouls and Ghosts collection. And I would really like it if, we got the NES version, the Super Nintendo, the Sega version, but then also throw in like some of the spin-offs, throw in Demon's Crest, and what is it, Gargoyle's Quest on the Game Boy, and there was
Game
one
Boy.
for the NES, like, just give
And the arcade cabinets.
There's the arcade cabinets. There's a Game Boy Color version. There's a Game Boy Advance version. I would love to see all of those put together, because I feel like that would be something like the Mega Man collection, where they all play similarly enough where they feel really good to just bounce from each other.
You know what? I may actually play them with a rewind feature.
Right?
Because
That would make
I don't have enough time to beat it properly.
And please, for the love of God, if you're gonna do that, put Resurrection on it, or at least release Resurrection physically so I can finally play that fucking game. And
Right?
really, the only way I could think they could screw it up is if they put fucking columns on it.
Yeah, it's the Ghouls and Ghosts collection. You launch it and it's just columns.
Just columns. Or just columns too, even if they want to just piss me off that much more. But I think with that I've gone on my ramble about collections. I think they're great. How about yourself?
So here's a question for you, and it's going to be really, really simple for me, and maybe a little bit of a crappy question, but regardless.
Huh?
What is a digital only collection that you want to see physical?
A digital only collection that I want to see physical. Oh, that's a surprisingly difficult question. Just because, like, I would like to say the Mega Man ones, but that one's a little bit of a cop-out, I think, at this point. The Final Fantasy ones have become physical, kind of.
I'm going to go with the Castlevania Advance Collection.
You know what? That I would actually have to agree with you there, because I want that on my shelf next to my Castlevania collection.
Yes. I've been holding off on playing the advanced games solely for that collection to come to a physical space.
Yeah.
And it has not yet, and I'm so close to just saying, fuck it, and emulating the shit out of them, because I'm not going to buy their remasters unless I can get it on my shelf.
I just want more collections in my collection.
Exactly. More collections.
Collectionception.
Collections. Oh,
my eye did a little bit of a twitch after saying that. But
so
you want to close this out?
That's all I got. That's all I got.
All right then.
So everyone, thanks for joining us for episode 17 of the Optional Boss podcast, where we kind of rambled and went all over the place about gaming compilations and collections. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or anything, want to leave us a review, you can on whatever podcasting service you are listening to us on. And you can always find us over on Twitter and Instagram at OptionalBossPC. We are happy to take in your questions to read out on the episode if we have any, and we will see you next time.
Bye!